Imagine living in a city where your neighbor's home is worth more than the Empire State Building. Now imagine that home has 3 helipads, 6 floors just for cars, and a snow room, yes. A room that makes snow in the middle of India's scorching 104-degree F summers. It's called Antilia, and it's not a hotel, not a palace, not a government facility. It's a private residence, owned by a single family. The Ambanis, India's richest, most controversial, most untouchable dynasty. Their home cost over $2 billion. Their daughter's wedding featured Beyoncé, Hillary Clinton, and India's prime minister on the same guest list. And their empire controls what over 1 billion Indians see, wear, cook, and even believe on. But this isn't just a story about money, because behind the chandeliers, private jets, and billion-dollar telecom deals is a darker truth, a silent war between 2 brothers, a fortune built on influence, monopoly, and backroom power plays, and a family now so powerful they don't walk the streets below their tower. They float above it. Stay until minute 14 and you'll see the one move that nearly brought it all crashing down. Because the Ambanis aren't just rich, they've rewritten what it means to be untouchable. And if you think you know the story, you don't, not yet. Before there were skyscrapers, private jets, or $100 million weddings, there was just a boy. His name was Dhirubhai Ambani, born in 1932 in a dusty village in Gujarat, Western India. He didn't inherit money, land, or legacy. He grew up in a cramped home with no electricity, eating lentils and rice by candlelight, listening to the sounds of heat and poverty. Not ambition, but Dhirubhai was different, even as a teenager. People said he had that dangerous spark, the kind of hunger that doesn't just want more, it requires it. At 17, he did something unthinkable for a village boy. He packed a single bag, left his family behind, and moved to Yemen. Not for college, not for adventure, for a game at a Shell gas station, under the scorching Arabian sun, pumping fuel for foreign cars. Dhirubhai watched. He didn't see customers. He saw capital. He tracked oil shipments, noted the rhythms of supply and demand. He studied how money flowed not just through products, but through networks, timing, and leverage. Years later, when he returned to India, he didn't come back with savings. He came back with a blueprint. He launched a textile trading company, Reliance Commercial Corporation. The office was 500 square feet, 1 table, 3 chairs, a rotary phone. But what Dhirubhai was really building was an empire. He wasn't selling fabric. He was selling the idea that India could compete with the West. He courted journalists, befriended politicians, bent the rules when he needed to, and rewrote them when he could. By the late 70s, Reliance had gone public. Millions of middle-class Indians poured their savings into his dream. His factories spread across the country like fortresses. Petrochemicals, plastics, power. And through it all, one face stared back from the billboards: Dhirubhai Ambani, the boy who came from dust, now shaping India's industrial future. But behind the scenes, 2 shadows watched his every move. 2 sons, one quiet, one charming, both waiting, to the public. Dhirubhai Ambani was the face of India's new capitalism. But inside the family, 2 futures were quietly forming. Mukesh, the elder son, Stanford-educated, soft-spoken, obsessed with systems. Anil, the younger Harvard MBA, all flash and charm. A media darling who looked like he belonged on a Vogue cover more than in a boardroom. Their father kept them close but not equal. Mukesh was handed the backbone of Reliance Energy, petrochemicals, infrastructure. Anil got telecom, finance, and entertainment, the shinier pieces, but riskier too. Still, as long as Dhirubhai was alive, the balance held. But in 2002, the unthinkable happened. Dhirubhai suffered a stroke, and this time, he didn't survive. He left behind billions in assets, but no will, no written plan, no clear successor. What followed was India's most expensive family feud played out in real time. At first, it was quiet, tense board meetings, muted press releases. But then anonymous leaks, executive reassignments, whispers of betrayal in the corridors of Reliance HQ. Mukesh allegedly overruled Anil on major deals. Anil fought back with media campaigns and shareholder letters. The press feasted. Stock prices wavered. Employees picked sides. This wasn't just a corporate dispute. This was dynastic warfare. Finally, after 3 years of silent civil war, someone stepped in, not a lawyer, not a judge. Their mother, Kokilaban Ambani, matriarch of the empire, called her sons to her home. No cameras, no boardrooms, no advisors, just a mother, 2 billionaires, and one ultimatum. Enough. She brokered a formal split. Mukesh would take old Reliance oil, gas, chemicals. Anil would take new Reliance Telecom, finance, media, on paper. It looked fair, but only one of them knew how to turn it into power. Because while Anil soaked up headlines, shook hands with stars, and made billion-dollar promises, Mukesh stayed quiet, focused, waiting, and he was about to make the most ruthless, brilliant move in modern Indian business. While Anil raced for the spotlight, Mukesh did something few billionaires ever dare. He disappeared from view. No interviews, no big gestures, just quiet construction of something far bigger than anyone suspected. In 2010, while India was still stuck on 2G, Mukesh was laying down fiber optic cables across the entire country, building thousands of cell towers, hiring engineers, buying bandwidth rights no one else could afford. He was pouring billions into a company that didn't yet exist. And in 2016, that company launched Jio. It wasn't a telecom brand, it was a calculated weapon on day one. Jio offered unlimited data, free voice calls, dirt cheap smartphones. Within weeks, India's telecom landscape exploded. Competitors tried to slash prices. It didn't work. They merged. They folded. Some sued. Jio didn't blink. In 6 months, Jio had 100 million users. In 2 years, 400 million. Entire villages came online. Children streamed classes. Farmers sold crops digitally. Grandparents video called for the first time. And Mukesh, he said almost nothing. Because Jio wasn't just about market share. It was about owning the infrastructure of a digital India. Behind closed doors, Reliance was working the system, securing licenses faster than competitors, dodging regulations that choked others, locking in exclusive deals. One insider said it plainly: Jio didn't break the rules. They just had the influence to rewrite them. And the ruling class let it happen. Because Jio didn't just grow profits, it grew national infrastructure. But Mukesh wasn't finished. In 20, while the world shut down during COVID, he made his boldest move yet. He raised $20 billion in months from the biggest players in tech: Facebook, Google, Intel, Silver Lake, Qualcomm. They weren't just investing in Jio. They were buying into India's future and handing Mukesh the keys. At that moment, Mukesh Ambani stopped being a businessman. He became something else, a digital kingmaker. And the empire was no longer just oil or data. It was control. On a narrow stretch of land in South Mumbai, where colonial ruins collapse beside glass towers, rises something that shouldn't exist. Antilia. It looks like a prop from a sci-fi film. 27 stories tall, though in scale, it matches a 60-story skyscraper. Each floor custom built, no two the same height, designed to look like a stack of glass blocks frozen mid-collapse. But the real shock, it's not a hotel, not a museum, not a national landmark. It's a home for one family, the Ambanis. Inside are floating gardens, multiple cinemas, and marble imported from Italy. There's a snow room that creates artificial blizzards, a 6-story garage housing over 160 luxury cars, and at the very top, 3 helipads, just in case the traffic below gets too inconvenient. Cost to build over $2 billion, more than the real estate value of entire blocks in Manhattan. But here's the part that turns awe into outrage. Just blocks away from Antilia's tinted windows are Mumbai's oldest slums, where families of 6 live in single rooms with tin roofs. No running water, no air conditioning, no electricity during peak summer. And when the Ambanis light up the sky with fireworks for a family wedding, those same streets go dark with power outages. To some, Antilia is a marvel, a celebration of India's rise. To others, it's a monument to inequality, a glass middle finger pointed down at the people below. But for Mukesh Ambani, Antilia isn't just a house, it's a message. The name Antilia comes from a mythical island said to rise briefly from the sea, then vanish, visible, untouchable, exactly like the family who lives inside it. Insiders say the house feels more like a fortress than a home. Entire floors go unused. Halls echo with silence. Curtains are always drawn. Security cameras cover every inch. It's a palace. Yes, but also a bubble. A kingdom in the clouds. A symbol of power so concentrated, it no longer feels real. And in 2021, the illusion cracked. A black SUV packed with explosives was found parked just outside the building. Police swarmed, streets shut down, and for the first time, the Ambanis realized even the highest towers can be touched. Security was doubled, cameras expanded, the house fortified again. But the fear remains, because when you build a home to keep the world out, what happens when it tries to get in? If Antilia is the fortress, then the weddings are the coronations. In 2018, Isha Ambani Mukesh's daughter married Anand Piramal, heir to another billionaire family. And suddenly, India stopped. Private jets filled Udaipur's skies. 5-star hotels were bought out. The guest list: Beyoncé, Hillary Clinton, Amitabh Bachchan, India's prime minister. Beyoncé performed. Shah Rukh Khan danced. The prime minister made a speech. It wasn't a wedding. It was a royal summit dressed in couture, cost estimated at over 100 million. And yet, behind the music, the lights, the silks and chandeliers, something else was happening. This wasn't just a marriage, it was a signal. Because Isha wasn't just a bride, she was already sitting in boardrooms, negotiating retail takeovers, quietly steering the next phase of Reliance. A year later, her twin brother Akash Ambani married Shloka Mehta, daughter of a diamond magnate, another empire fused to the bloodline. Another billion-dollar spectacle. Another message. We're not fading, we're multiplying. And then came the third Anant Ambani. The youngest, positioned in energy and green hydrogen, got engaged in 2023. 3 children, 3 divisions of the empire, 3 succession plays unfolding in plain sight. But here's the twist, they didn't build this. They were born inside it. They never fought rivals in boardrooms, never stared down regulators in court, never worked out of a 500-square-foot office with a rotary phone. They were raised in a world of bulletproof glass and legacy pressures so thick, it becomes invisible. Mukesh never gave a formal retirement speech, but he didn't need to. In 2022, Akash was named chairman of Reliance Jio. Isha took charge of Reliance Retail. Anant stepped into sustainability and future energy. Each child handed a pillar of the empire, each assignment as strategic as any battlefield move. Because for all their privilege, the Ambani heirs aren't just inheriting wealth, they're inheriting expectation. To rule, to defend, to survive the tower their father built. And that weight that might be heavier than the empire itself. At first glance, the Ambani story looks like a triumph. A boy from Gujarat rises from dust, builds an empire, passes it to his children. A nation watches, dazzled. The skyscraper touches the clouds, legacy secured. But if you zoom in, you'll see something else. This was never just about oil, or telecom, or weddings that break the internet. It was about control, about how far one family would go, not just to rise, but to stay untouchable. A brother lost to rivalry, children raised in shadows so vast, they're barely visible outside the empire's walls. A family that owns a country's infrastructure, yet no longer walks its streets. Security guards at every gate, panic buttons in master bedrooms, legacy plans drawn up like military strategies. Because when you sit this high above 1 billion people, you don't get to relax. You defend, constantly, quietly, at all costs. And now, as India shifts again digitally, politically, generationally, one question remains: will the next generation rule the empire, or be ruled by it? What do you see when you look at Antilia? A triumph of ambition or a fortress built on imbalance? Drop your take in the comments. And if there's another family dynasty you want us to unpack, name it.